Voyage.
Hey, listeners, this is Nat Mundel from Voyage. I'm super excited to introduce you to Aasif Mandvi, who stars in our incredible new podcast series called Firvana, which is a true story adventure series. Aasif, you probably know him, has a remarkable and varied career, both in film and in television. For example, in CBS and Paramount, the series Evil, movies like The Siege, Analyze This, The Last Airbender, Premium Rush, and Million Dollar Arm, and countless others. Very warm welcome to you. It's great to have you here. Thanks for joining us, Asif.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you bet. So let's dive in. Firvana. Um, Question: is this your first podcast series, first narrative series to perform in, or have you been doing it a
Um,
while?
yeah, I think so. I can't think of another. So yeah, that's right. It's
Well,
my
that's
first one.
exciting. It's a
Yeah,
it's an it's a neat medium to explore. We're glad to
yeah.
have you with us. And on that note, what attracted you to the series? You know, Akshay is pretty incredible person in real life, and what resonated with you about him in the role?
Just I think his uh, there are people that sort of live on the periphery of the human sort of experience, in the sense that like most of us are kind of living, you know, regular sort of lives where we work out and we challenge ourselves, or we might do whatever, but Akshay is sort of living in this kind of extreme place where he needs a kind of extreme stimulus, and
Hmm.
it's interesting. And even like in all the different sort of, I don't want to call them adventures, but challenges that he places upon himself in order to like go there to
Yeah,
experience some kind of, you want to call it enlightenment or peace, or religious, like illuminate, like a kind of experience of spiritual experience of some kind, and what he puts himself through in order to experience that. Most of us don't do it, don't need to necessarily do it, and don't
mm,
like have the sort of drive to do that. It feels to me like Akshay is the kind of person who has to do this, and he's just a very interesting character because
yeah,
when the podcast starts off and you sort of meet him as a younger man, he kind of seems a little bit like just like he's got like a death wish or something, like
right.
they're just playing around with this kind of like young juvenile sort of idea of like, I want to push the boundaries. I want to tease death. I want to, and it sort
Yeah,
of feels kind of self-involved and a little bit narcissistic and reckless in a way. And then he becomes a Marine, and he goes to fight, and he comes back from Afghanistan, and you see that the process and the progress of his journey towards like a more spiritual understanding of what that all was about in the
yeah,
beginning, and
yeah.
where that came from, and he just seemed to me like a really, and you don't meet, honestly, you don't have many South Asian characters, or stories like that of sort of Indian American men
Mm.
doing that. Usually, this story would be like a white guy, you know?
Yeah, right, right.
And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I was fascinated with that, and I was interested in just his journey. It just seemed, you know, just something that like very few people would be willing to do, and he sacrificed a great deal and continues to do
Yeah,
that
and
in order
continues
to
to do
do
so.
that,
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
know.
As
Yeah.
you dig deeper into that, that sort of initial impulse of that it's self-involved, but as you go deeper and you learn more, and the podcast explores this, it becomes this, this onion that is continuously peeling
Mhm.
to something deeper and more complex.
And it almost feels like, it has a spiritual element to it in the same way, there are Buddhist monks that go and sort of sit on a mountain for years or whatever, or
right.
it sort of reminded me a little bit of in a different way, you know, David Blaine, the magician,
Oh yeah, that's a neat.
and
That's a neat.
his kind of the way he challenges himself. And part of that, for him has to do with this idea of um overcoming this fear of death,
Hmm.
and so and Akshay sort of feels similar, even though he's not a magician, he's not doing,
Sure.
but he is pushing his body in a way to the extreme and experiencing that.
Yeah. So
Um,
on the in that philosophy that he calls Firvana, and that sort of pushing towards death and danger, right? Like that's kind of the focal point of his philosophy. So as you've, sort of lived your life and found your voice in this character, like have you done anything close to some sort of dangerous adventure, or even if it's internal, that
well,
you can connect with?
it's an interesting question, right? Because the short answer is no, not
Hmm.
anything to that extreme. But in our lives, in the sort of the lives that most of us live, there are always in different ways we all push boundaries and like so I'm not an extreme sports person or an extreme like I didn't have a death wish, but in my life the only thing that I could sort of um find a parallel with would be the idea, or any or some kind of connection with, would be the idea of forging a path in a career that was not like, didn't have a lot of things for me to sort of
Mm.
know that if I was going to be successful or not. So it was like
Hmm.
going out on a limb in that way, in a different kind of limb,
Yeah,
where
yeah, yeah.
going out and sort of trying to be an actor and a writer in Hollywood at a time when there was no space for brown people, there were no interest, there were no stories. When I started out, and so there was a level of risk involved in like, what is
Sure.
your life going to be if you do this? Like, are you going to be able to make a living doing this? Are you going to be able to succeed? So, and not that that is I was never in physical danger. But there was a kind of risk taking around a passion that I could not deny, right? Like, so I had a passion towards something, and even if it was going to result in like failure, I had to move towards it, and it was a calling. And in all of our lives, I think there is a calling that we can listen to if we listen to it, right?
Yeah, and then
There's a
there's often a choice in that moment of, okay, do I pull back from that, or do I go all in and sort of
yeah,
let go of the other safety nets that might
exactly. And I think
be
that's I
holding
think
on to, and
right.
go all in and put it on the line,
Yeah,
right?
and I think that's actually a big piece of it. Like, I mean, there may be somebody out there right now who's like working at a bank or something, or a grocery store or whatever, and would rather be painting, or
Hmm.
doing something that is outside of what they consider to be, safe or whatever. And but it's a passion or a calling for them. Or maybe there's a painter who wants to be working in a bank, and that's his, I don't know,
Yeah, yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean? But
Well,
there, you
so
know,
on that career note of yours, it's extraordinary as I've gotten to know you over the last few months and dug into more as to what you've been up to. You've had a very long and very, not just illustrious but voluminous career. You've been in so many different kinds of projects, and
yeah.
as you left whatever sort of threads of safety and security, and you went full into this career, like what are some of the things that enabled you to make that move, but then also sustain that over so many years into so many different kinds of projects? Like what are some of the the sort of core tenets you've had to carry with you?
I mean, I think one of the main things was that, sometimes you don't know because it is just the cards that you're dealt, and that determines your destiny sometimes, because either through like physical factors or internal factors, there are only certain choices that you're willing to make, or being able to. And so for me, it was mostly about, I think what has helped me sustain my career is that, not to use a lame business term, but I diversified my portfolio. You know what I mean? Like I basically started writing, and I started, and I was able to do comedy and drama, and have different, and so it allowed me a certain amount of diversity. And I think as a South Asian actor coming up in this business, I did stand-up comedy for a while. I think, like I was on the Daily Show. I was also like doing Shakespeare. I was doing theater, and so I think that the only way I knew how to survive was like if I could do a lot of things, to a reasonable rate, like I could then survive, because I wasn't going to get. And as a brown actor in those days, it was important, because if you could only do one thing, and then there was nothing for that, then you weren't going to work. So I was always entrepreneurial.
Yeah, it sounds like you were continuously putting one foot in front of the other and always moving forward, as opposed to waiting.
Yeah, I never waited, because I couldn't. And again, I don't make this as a sort of like, well, I was so, I just couldn't, because the phone, unlike some of my other actor friends who I came up with in this business, their phone was ringing. My phone never rang. So I couldn't wait. So if I was going to survive, I had to be more entrepreneurial. I had to figure out, I had to write my own stuff. That's how I wrote my one-man show. That's how I created my movie that I went on to make from my one-man show. And so but in every area, in every way, it was always, the act of creation is an act of jumping into the not knowing, right? Like I don't know if it's going to be any good. I don't know if anybody's going to like it. So when I wrote my one-man show, I just wrote it. Took me years to write it, but I just wrote it, put it out there. Had no idea if it was going to be received or not received, but it is all I could do, because I didn't know it was better than standing still. So for me, it was like either I stand still and wait, and then I could be waiting forever, or I move forward and just try to do whatever I can. And so it's that's it. And in that there is a certain amount of sort of like to me it felt inevitable. Like to me it was like there was no way I was going to stand still. That wasn't my makeup, right? And that wasn't like how it was designed. So I did that, and it was a little bit of sort of being entrepreneurial, being a little bit of like using guerrilla tactics to, I remember like back in the day, you used to go to like the offices of production companies or TV shows, and they'd have a big sign on the door that would say, "Please go away.
Yeah, don't come here.
Do not knock on this door." Right?
Right.
And so I would knock on the door. And sometimes I'd get a voice from the behind the door would be like, "Just leave your headshot and resume in the bin outside." Okay, fine, And then sometimes they'd open the door, and sometimes it would lead to some, And so it was that, right? Like it was a little bit of like rule breaking and trying to find another way around the systemic sort of way in which the business wants to keep the status quo and wants to keep you where you are, right?
Yeah.
The business
everything's set up that way.
Yeah, the business is set up to say no.
Exactly.
No. And you have to figure out how to get a yes from a
Yeah,
system that is devised
totally. We
within
deal with that.
within the structure of safety, because it's easier to say no than to say yes.
Absolutely. We deal
So
with that every day at Voyage. Like one of our founding principles is it's not a no, it's a yes and, meaning there can be a qualifier,
right, right,
right? There can always be like a and there's some work to do,
yeah,
right? But find the
exactly.
yes first and go from there. So,
Well, it's the old,
as
right, it's the
please.
improv principle, right? Which I
Yeah,
also,
yeah, yeah,
it's like
exactly.
yes and, like, let me build on what it is. But the entertainment industry, as far as like for actors and for performers and artists and writers and creators, the door is constantly getting shut in your face, right? Because
Mm,
that is the way the business operates. Like, it's like if I say no to you, it's safer than if I say yes and we spend a bunch of money and it doesn't work and da 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 da.
yeah,
You know what I
right.
mean? So that is, and so the rules, the way it works is you kind of go, all right, well, what can I do to get around it? What can I do? What kind of, necessity? What is it? Invention is
Necessity is the mother of invention.
mother of invention. Necessity is the mother of invention, right? So that's what it is. And so I was basically like, I had no other path, and I was
Yeah.
boxed into this one life that I had chosen. I couldn't go back to go to medical school at that point. So it was like figure it out.
Yeah.
And
Well, so as you've been putting, you know, foot after foot in front of the other on this incredible career so far, like what's the thing you haven't done that is the next step? Like what's the
I
big
really,
thing
I
you
mean,
haven't
this
done
sounds,
yet?
yeah, it sounds like a cliche, but I want to direct and I want to
Uh-huh.
produce more. Um, I feel like I've gotten great opportunities as an actor to work with incredible people and incredible,
Hmm.
but I also want to now start creating content, putting it out in the world, content
Yeah.
that I'm either passionate and excited or inspired by, and sort of use that
Yeah.
either as a producer or a director or even a writer and content creator. And I'll always be acting. Acting has always been my bread and butter, and is
Sure.
always like my first love, and I hope to continue doing it until I can't anymore. But
Yeah.
yeah,
We're very excited to be a part of, you know, your what's next in the
yeah,
sense of, partnered on, endeavoring to make this Firvana
yeah,
into
yeah.
a
Well,
great
this was one of those.
major
This was
motion
one.
picture.
Yeah, this was exactly one of those kind of stories where I was like, I'd never heard of Akshay before until you guys, made me aware of him. And then I was like, this is an incredible story, and it's a really interesting story and inspiring and unique, and one of my goals as a creator is also to tell stories of people of color and stories that haven't been told before, because that's what I care about, and that's the stories I want to put out in the world are the stories that haven't been told yet by people who haven't gotten to tell their stories because there wasn't a space for them to
Yeah.
tell their stories. So I feel that feels exciting to me. So I'm excited to be partnering with you guys on this.
Yeah, we are. We're
Yeah.
so excited. Well, aside from this podcast series and the future movie, what do you have upcoming? What do you want your fans to know? What are you working on? What's coming up?
Well, I've been, as you mentioned earlier, I'm doing Evil, which is on Paramount
Hmm.
Plus, and our season 4 is coming out this September, later this year. And so that's exciting, and
Yeah.
something that I think the fans of the show are going to be very excited about. We got a great season coming up, and um, it's just going to be bigger and badder and better than what you've seen before. So I'm excited for the world to see season 4 of Evil, and then I have a couple of film projects that I'm working on that I'm hoping will get developed in the next year or so.
Yeah.
And so yeah, all things are moving forward. But Evil is the
Yeah.
most immediate thing right now that's going to be happening.
Yeah.
About to go do a movie actually in Thailand this fall.
Oh, cool.
That Justin Lin is directing.
Uh-huh. Great.
People know him from the Fast and Furious franchise, and this is a movie, a small movie that he's at the helm of, about a true story about a man named John Allen Chow,
Hmm.
who it's called The Last Days of John Allen Chow, and it's about this young Asian American evangelical Christian who went to this island in the middle of the Indian Ocean called the North Sentinel Island in order to convert these people to Christianity. These natives, and it's the last place on earth that civilization has never reached. And
Right.
anyway, it's a true story. You can Google it.
Wow.
It happened in 2018. He did not make it out alive.
Yeah, I was
Um,
like, there sounds like there's something bad
yeah,
coming from that
yeah,
setup.
yeah. So, but it's about these people, and it's an interesting story about how, um, about a tribe of people who want to be left alone and don't want the influence and the influx of the Western world and the modern world, and
Yeah,
yet somehow that conflict is difficult for people to deal with. That tension
right.
of them being wanting to remain in prehistoric times, the hunter gatherer sort of world. So anyway, it's an interesting story, and it's based on a true
Wow.
story. And I'm going to go
Amazing.
this fall.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Well, listeners, it's been a great chat. You can find Fearvana, the podcast we've been talking about, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you listen to podcasts. Please check it out. Incredible story. I think you'll find it very, very interesting. And if you love adventure and high stakes drama, you got to go
yeah.
check it out. And I want to thank our star, Aasif Mandvi from Voyage Media, Nat Mundel, signing off.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, man.